All right, people, Foe back at you with another video, and today we are going to be discussing the best legendaries for your Fury Warrior. Keep in mind, this is on the beta, and all of this is subject to change before the release of Shadowlands. And remember that this is my opinion, so let's get into it. All right, I'm basically going to be doing the same thing. I'm going to try to keep this as concise and detailed as possible. I want it to be a little bit shorter than my last Demon Hunter one, but I'm gonna have the same kind of like tier list. I'll have my lower tier, my mid tier, and my top tier. The first legend that we're gonna be taking a look at today is going to be the Shadow Gas Helm. If Whirlwind hits 3 or more enemies, it hits them 1 additional time. My initial thoughts on this legendary is that it's very bad. Our main source of AoE as a Fury Warrior is not from Whirlwind itself, it's the buff that gets applied when we Whirlwind. So when we Whirlwind, right, it's going to be affecting our next 2 single target melee abilities, and then it's going to have them cleave up to 4 additional targets from your main target. So it's going to be doing that at a reduced effectiveness on those 4 targets. And Whirlwind itself does not do any damage, basically. I think this does have some synergy with Meat Cleaver, but it's kind of like a double-edged sword, since Whirlwind's going to be doing 30% more damage, but it's now affecting your next 4 single target melee attacks instead of 2. So that would obviously mean you're spamming Whirlwind less. But obviously with this legendary, you'd want to be spamming it more, since you're basically buffing the damage that Whirlwind does, since it's hitting them 1 additional time. But just as a rotation in general, Whirlwind does not contribute to a significant part of our damage. We just do a basic rotation right now. This is going to be skewed since it's affecting my next 4 attacks. But I'm just going to be doing this for a little bit just so we can get a rough idea of how much damage we're doing. And then just going to take a look at how much Whirlwind contributed to that overall damage. But as you can see, Fury Warriors feel really slow right now. And let's take a look at our damage. Look right there, you can see 4.1%. And if I wasn't playing that talent, it would be doing 30% less damage, but we'd be spamming it more. I mean, even still, even if we were spamming it more, I don't think it'd be like worth it to be taking over like Dragon's War, Blade Storm. So all in all, I think this legendary is pretty bad. Definitely don't think it's worth your time, and there are way better legendaries. All right, next up we have the Shadow Gas Gauntlets. Rampage critical strikes reduce your recklessness and enrage regeneration cooldown by 3 seconds. Now this looks like it could be a potential good legendary further down the road when we have more crit to work with, but right now on the beta I only have 12% crit, so only a 12% chance on my Rampage to get this reduced by 3 seconds. Not very high, not gonna happen like ever, so definitely not a good showcase for this. But I definitely think when we're able to get more crit on our gear, definitely could see maybe have some potential, but definitely don't think it'll be that much, honestly, just because recklessness is not even that great of a cooldown. It's just doubling our rage, and it's only giving us a 20% crit chance for 10 seconds. Right here on the tooltip it says 14.4 seconds because I have a conduit. It's increasing it by 20%. But yeah, man, recklessness just not that great of a cooldown. Like if it was like Avatar where we're just getting a flat damage bonus by like 20%, that'd be huge. But yeah, recklessness just not really seeming like it's worth it compared to the other legendaries that we have available to us. This does have some nice synergy with anger management, because you could just try to reduce your recklessness even more with this. But again, our stats are just so bad right now that it's kind of hard for us to just get a lot of Fury constantly compared to retail. But I definitely think this could be a no-brainer down the line. All right, folks, the next legendary we're going to be looking at is the Shadow Gas Breastplate. When recklessness expires, your critical strike chance is increased by 5% for 5 seconds. Your raging blow will refresh the duration of this effect. Things to note here, critical strike chance is way too low for this to be any good. I think 5% is just way too low, man. It's got to be like 10% at least. And this is going to make Raging Blow a huge priority, because you want to make sure you're hitting it within that 5-second window. But you can actually keep this up for pretty much like 100% of the fight that you're doing, whatever it is that you're doing. So let's go ahead, put this on. So we're going to pop Wreck, and then after our Wreck, we're going to see the buff. So I'm just going to do like my normal rotation. And it should be coming up here soon. All right, we just got it right here, Will the Berserker. So I'm going to pop my Raging Blow, and it refreshes, okay? So I can usually get like 3 globals in before I have to refresh. And we're just trying to keep it up. But sometimes we can just get unlucky and not get a Raging Blow proc, like right here. And then it's just going to fall off, and then you have to wait for your Recklessness to come back up. So already see a downfall right there, man. And yeah, I don't think you're going to see significant damage increases from this 5% crit chance. Next up, we have the Shadow Gas Necklace. Spell Reflection lasts 200% longer and applies to your party. So compared to the DH one that automatically triggers, we actually now have utility as warriors. We have more utility. We actually get Spell Reflection baseline, which is Poggers, man. So you're gonna raise your weapon, reflecting spells cast on you last 5 seconds or until a spell is reflected. So with this legendary, this will be lasting 15 seconds when you do use this, and this will be applying to your party. So if there's some huge ability that you can just spell reflect, oh my god, dude, that's insane. I can't really think of a, like, if there's like an AoE spell damage effect, nothing's really coming to my mind right now, but where you can just apply this to your party. It's only going to affect the 5 people in your party, assume. It's not going to affect like your entire raid. So just whatever group you're in for your raid, I think this would apply. But this is huge, man. You have 15 seconds for this buff to last. So you have ample time to pre-press this before the spell happens, and you can reflect it, or just even reduce magic damage you're taking by 20% for everyone in your party. This is actually a huge defensive legendary. I definitely think this is going to have some uses in some raid encounters where you're going to want to just live longer, or even maybe in like high mythic plus where you're just taking significant amounts of magic damage, or you could cheese an ability. Definitely think this is a great legendary. Definitely deserves some recognition. And the big thing for this is that we have control over it. We can pop it, man. We know that this spell is coming up from our spell queue window, and we can just pre-press it knowing that we're gonna be safe and afflicting people with our group with it. Definitely great legendary. Next up, we have the Shadow Gas Sabatons. Heroic Leap gains 2 additional charges. Now, this middle row is more so just utility, right? It's not really increasing our damage, but it actually could, especially with this Heroic Leap run. The main problem I feel like warriors kind of have is that they're just not as mobile as some of their other melee counterparts. This is especially true in arena, but we're also gaining intervene this expansion. So now we basically have 2 forms of charge. And then if you're also taking double time, you now have 2 charges on your regular charge. So like basically we have like 3 charges we can use. And with this Heroic Leap, we can just be hopping all over the place. This legendary is actually so sick, man. Look, 3 charges on this, and you can also play Bounding Stride so that it's reduced by 15 seconds. And then you get increased movement speed after you use it, man. Like, dude, we're literally freaking Frogger right now, just jumping all over the place. And then we can charge 2 people, and then we can also intervene to people as well. Like, warriors are gonna have so much mobility this expansion. I think this is gonna be great. I definitely don't think this would be like a high first prio legendary. I definitely think you want to go for just like a flat damage one, and then like this would be a good like maybe 2nd or 3rd legendary if we can equip more later down in expansion. But who knows, maybe you just want the extra mobility so you can just get out of certain mechanics easier and just have more uptime on certain bosses, you know. Definitely think it's a great legendary. Not really much to say about it other than that we're just leaping all over the place, man. Definitely a fun legendary. All right, the next legendary that we're going to be talking about is the Shadow Gas Grievous. Your Rampage has a 25% chance to apply the Siegebreaker effect to your target for 5 seconds. This legendary is actually phenomenal, okay? The thing that you might say at first is that 25% chance, like I was preaching in my last video about legendaries, is that 25% chance just seems way too low. But the thing is, I think this is proccing off each hit of your Rampage. So Rampage does 4 hits for a total of 2400 dam. So I think it has a chance to proc off each hit of your Rampage. So it actually inflates the chance for your legendary to proc this. Like instead of 25% chance, it actually feels much higher. And this can happen when you're hitting multiple targets. Like each one of those hits on like 5 targets can proc it. So it's actually insane. Siegebreaker is a phenomenal debuff for warriors. It's such a short cooldown, 30 seconds. And causes us to do 15% increased damage to those targets afflicted with it. So let's go ahead and equip this and see it out in action. Hopefully we can get some good refreshes. So I'm gonna apply my Siegebreaker. Hopefully it refreshes right here. No refresh. Actually, it did. And you could see on that last hit of my rampage that it refreshed or added 4 seconds to it. And it honestly just feels like I have Siegebreaker up for so long, man. And let's say there were 2 more mobs. I believe it could be proccing off those as well. So you'd pretty much like guarantee always having Siegebreaker up on at least 1 target, I feel like. Hold on, proc maybe, and we got 1 proc right there. So all in all, this is just a phenomenal legendary, especially when we get more haste down the expansion, where we can actually fit more globals into these Siegebreaker windows. It's just gonna be monstrous, man. Actually just monstrous. Like, look, we basically got a full Siegebreaker right there, and we didn't even actually use Siegebreaker. It's only from our legendary. So pretty insane, man. Pretty insane. I do not think there's an internal cap on this. At first when I was doing it, it felt like it was only inflicting 2 targets with it, but I could have just gotten unlucky. But it does seem like this can proc on all the mobs that you're hitting at a time. So it can proc up to 5 additional mobs that you're hitting with your whirlwind. So that's huge, man. Huge potential. This is great for Mythic Plus, great for rating, man. All in all, this is just probably one of the best legendaries. I don't know if I'd call it the top legendary, but it's definitely up there. All right, next up we have the Shadow Gas Wasteguard. Bloodthirst increases your haste by 2% for 5 seconds, stacking up to 4 times. So you're going to be getting 8% haste after you use Bloodthirst 4 times, and it is in a 5-second window. You do not want this to fall off. This is basically Furious Slash, and as you can see, we no longer have Furious Slash. I kind of hated Furious Slash, but it's basically just another buff that you have to micromanage as a warrior, because you do not want this to fall off, man. You do not want this to fall off. Bloodthirst becomes top priority before the window falls off, so always want to keep this going. And when you combine this with Frenzy, where you can get up to 9% haste after you rampage 3 times on a single target, pretty big. You can get up to 17% haste total. So that's 17% haste you don't have to worry about on your gear, right? You're just going to get 17% haste if you play the game properly and use your legendary accordingly. I do think this is going to make haste lower on the stat priority list and cause versatility and mastery to get higher priority. But I still think you'd want some haste. Not entirely sure, but I just think that's how it's going to play out. But let's go ahead and equip it. This legendary is nice, man, because it definitely makes the rotation of Fury Wear feel not exactly like live, right? Stats are just kind of out of whack right now on retail, but definitely makes it feel a lot faster. So I'm gonna pop wreck, use my Siegebreaker. I'm actually just gonna do some single target. So right here we can see it, my cadence of Fujita. And the thing with this is I found you can basically get like 3 globals in before you have to refresh. So I'll pop Rampage and then I can still have enough time to hit Bloodthirst right there again. And it's a very short window. I'd obviously want like a weak aura so I could keep easier track of this, but you do not want this to fall off. And it's just another haste boost you're getting right now. So right now I just have 20% haste and my gear is poorly optimized. So that's pretty cool, man. Pretty cool. Makes the rotation feel a lot nicer. And I think this could just be used for all kinds of situations where you just want to have more haste and have like a faster gameplay. I definitely think this is one of the top legendaries. I'm really torn, man. I'm really torn between the next one we're going to talk about and the previous one. I definitely think that Shadow Gas Grievous has some potential as being the top legendary if you just get like insane procs on your Siegebreaker where you just have like huge uptime on it. But I definitely think this is more consistent since you can maintain the buff by yourself. You're not really relying on a proc, and we're always trying to minimize those forms of RNG, guys. All right, the last legendary that we're going to be talking about is the Shadow Gas Arm Guards. Activating Blade Storm, Recklessness, or Avatar randomly cast one of the other 2 abilities at reduced effectiveness. The thing with this legendary is that it's random which one you're going to get. You're not going to have Avatar, so you're already losing a way to proc this legendary. Kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Since Fury does not have Avatar, we now have at least some way to access that, and Avatar is a huge damage cooldown, 20% increased damage, so that's massive. Obviously you're going to want to take Blade Storm. You never want to take these other talents because when you take Blade Storm you're guaranteed to proc this legendary, so you're forced to play Blade Storm with this legendary. it is going to switch up your rotation a little bit. So when I pop Wreck, it has a chance to proc either Bladestorm or Avatar. It will never proc Wreck. It's always one of the other two abilities. It's going to change up your rotation because if I do pop Wreck, right, and then it randomly procs Bladestorm, the boss is over here and I'm Bladestorming over here. So you don't want to Wreck and then charge like your normal opener. You'd want to charge and then Wreck, because right there we just got Bladestorm. And if I procced, if I popped Wreck right here, then I'd be Bladestorming over here and not hitting this target dummy. So all in all, this has huge damage potential for Fury Warriors, man. I'm gonna pop Bladestorm right here. We'll see what buff we get. We got Wreck. Unfortunate that we didn't get Avatar. Obviously the best one you'd want to get is Avatar because it's just increasing everything you do by 20%. That's the main one we're looking for. But the thing with this is that it gives Fury huge burst windows in a small window. But the problem right here is that we're seeing is that now we're waiting for Recklessness and Avatar or Bladestorm to come off cooldown. So again, tying back into those short burst windows. 10 seconds we can pop Bladestorm. I'm gonna wait to pop my Siege Breaker just so we can line it up with Avatar or Bladestorm and potentially have some big synergy. So we got Wreck. Probably should have Siege Breaker then Bladestormed. And then we pop Wreck, and then we got Avatar. Huge damage right now, huge damage window. And very cool that we have a way to access ability that's not available to us. And Avatar is just such an iconic cooldown, man. Definitely think it's really cool. You're definitely gonna get some solid deeps from this legendary, regardless of whatever proc you do get. I just don't think you'd want to use it in like PvP because you don't want to break those CC chains you have set up going for your team. But other than that, it's very solid. But it's kind of hard to quantify all this damage, right? Especially with all these legendaries. Just because this one's reliant on RNG, this one's kind of reliant on RNG as well, just because you're searching for that Avatar. And then this is kind of the best one that you have a lot of control over. As long as you maintain that buff, you'll just basically have more globals because you'll have faster haste. So I definitely think overall this is like the best solid legendary, and then these two have potential to be the top legendary, just dependent on RNG. It's just really hard to tell with sims and quantify it, right? Because it's just completely random which proc you're gonna get with this one. But yeah, man, that is the Fury Warrior legendaries. There's always a place for this class slash spec in my heart, man. I used to main this spec before I went to Demon Hunter, so got some huge stuff for this class. Let me know what you guys think of these legendaries. They needed something to make up for missing out on Gushing Wound, which came from our Azurite trait, Cold Steel, Hot Blood. That was pretty much a significant portion of Fury Warrior damage in BFA. So they need something to make up for that. And I do think that these legendaries kind of get the job done. But we'll see later down the line on how everything plays out. But yeah, man, that's going to be it for this video, guys. If you guys did like this video, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. And until next time, dudes. Peace.